was trained at Ardmore Teachers Training College in the early 1960s to be a teacher of primary schools. I chose to be trained as a teacher of the senior classes in the primary schools because that's where my interest was. I love drama, singing, and putting shows on. So I thought that would be the best place for me to be. But I found when I got out into the schools that I kept being put as a primer teacher. And when I was in Taupō, when I got to Taupō to teach, I was asked by the senior teacher of junior classes to be the new entrant teacher for the school. And I protested. I said I wasn't trained as a junior teacher, I was trained as a senior teacher. She said, I can train you. I'll teach you how to teach reading, because that's where my worry was. I protested, but she was a very strong lady and she soon had me into the junior classes and she taught me how to do it. Every 3 months, a group of new children came to me, and within that 3 months I would have them reading up to the Ready to Read Red series, and some of them were starting in the Blue series. I did as she told me, I followed instructions, and it happened just as she said. After 3 months, the children all moved up. They could read the Ready to Read Red series, and they were some of them starting on the Blue series, and it just worked what she told me to do. Now I felt pretty good about myself. I could teach the senior classes as well as the juniors, so I was really, you know, all set. Not long after that, well, maybe a couple of 3 years later, my family and I moved to a country area, and the school there was wanting a primer teacher. So I applied for it, absolutely confident that now I could do it. What I found when I went to the school in the country was I applied the same method that I did in Taupō, but what happened was about a third of them got it exactly like I was teaching in Taupō, and they moved straight into like I expected them all to do. Then there was a group in the middle that when I applied lots and lots of extra work, they moved slowly. But there was a group that really worried me down here that never got it at all. They just didn't understand. They couldn't do it. I used to stay up at night making rows and rows of, I'd tell stories on tape, I'd have their lessons all set, because I had a class of 36, and to have these children who couldn't do it was very hard. I would stay up at night till well after 12, got off quite often, setting up individual work for each of these children. And I did go back to what I had remembered myself learning as a child about phonics, but I had no structure, no system, and I was grabbing at things like all the ing words, sing, thing. I was getting all of them lined up and we'd go through them, but there's so many. And all the PR words and the BL words and the OAT words and all of those, and then the OAN words, loads of them. And it didn't work, because I had these children for 3 years and they left my class not being able to read. And I felt a terrible failure from this. I felt that I knew that I had failed to teach them, but I was at my wit's end. I didn't know what to do to get them to read. So now I'm asking the principal of the school if I could move up into the senior classes, because I didn't like this guilty feeling I had of not being able to fulfill my duty as a teacher. And of course he didn't want to come down into the primers. There was only one other teacher who didn't want to come down there either. These children that I was unable to teach at the country school. A neighbour had come in and told me about this one little boy, one of the boys that I couldn't teach. He said, "You know what I saw him do this morning? He's walking to the bus stop and he looks over into the paddock and he sees a sheep having problems lambing. He jumps over the fence and he's in there and he helps that sheep. He helps the sheep lamb her babies, her twin babies. And then he wipes his hand on the grass and on his clothes, jumps back through the fence and carries on to the bus stop." That was the ability of this child that I couldn't teach to read. And he had lots of information that he could share all about farming. He was a very bright child and I couldn't teach him to read. And there were other children in the class who could pull a car motor apart and put it back together again. All bright children, and I didn't teach them to read. So in the end, I applied for a big town school, and where I was teaching senior children again in the school. But what I noticed when I got to this big town school, every year, as they moved through, I had the year 5 and 6. Every year, the year 5s coming in, always, there was at least a third of the class that was struggling, unable to spell, read, or write. And this just kept happening every year as the new class came in. Every year it was like that. So there were 5 other senior classes in that school, so going by that, 5 8s, about 8 children, 5 8s of 40 from that class, from that school alone, every year going through that didn't read. And that was just one school in this huge big area. For more information, visit www.aboutwords.co.nz. Like our Facebook pages, So You Think You Are Dumb and Let's Start a Revolution. Please visit our YouTube channel for more videos.